picture was just up there, and if you have a chance, she is Konisha Harvey, and she's going to be learning the job. Good morning, and welcome to those of you that are here in our sanctuary, and to those that are watching online. My name is Susan Owen Kinsey, and I want to welcome all of you for coming to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Flint. Now, I am told to tell you why I think the UU-ism and UU are special. The list is long, so I'm just going to try to tell you in one little portion of it. I like the fact that we believe in reality, that we look at the world as it is. We dream for a better world, we work for a better world, but we acknowledge that we are here in this world now, and we look at what we can control and what we can't control. We look at things that maybe aren't working and take a step back and analyze it. We don't keep hitting our head into a brick wall and say, if I just visualize it harder, or I just pray harder, or if I take this pill at every night before I go to bed, I'll lose 40 pounds in a month without trying. We don't believe in that. We believe in what is here. And like I said, we try to make things better, and we work for that, and we keep on working. The way we work may change, but that's something I can hold on to. I can't live in a fantasy land where my heart and my head have to be separated. No, that's not for me. So thank you, UCF, for making a place that I can feel comfortable in. Now we have a few announcements. Our annual congregational meeting is next Sunday. Yeah, I better remember that one. It's on June 12th. It will be immediately following the service. And for those of you that are online, it will not be on the YouTube channel. You'll have to go to Zoom so that people can vote, people can hear during this. There's going to be a couple items that we will be voting on, so please attend if at all possible. And help us carry on the proud tradition cherished by UU churches that historically governed themselves. Our congregation will be represented at both the Flint and the Fenton Pride events this month. And if you would like to help staff a table, just let Kathy Stiles or Reverend Lynn know. This again is one of those things that takes a small amount of time but can have a big impact. So if you have just a small block of time, please let them know and see what difference that can make. It's not too late to sign up for the bus trip to Washington, D.C., and show your support for the low-wage workers. It's not getting any better for any of us, but especially them. See Jerry for details. He's got all the information on that. And if you have a child in grades, or if you know a child in grades 3 through 8 that's looking for an excellent summer camp, make sure their parents know about our own Music and Movement Camp. Our day camp happens here at UUCF during the week of August 1st through the 5th, and I believe the time is from 9 to 2. Yeah. So that's a good time to have them. You don't have to get them up super early, but you have them out and about, and they'll be moving and learning and enjoying. Now, we will light our chalice. We light this chalice in recognition of, okay, let's start over.
Okay.
We light this chalice in recognition of our fifth principle, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and our society at large. And if those of you here and at home will join me in reciting our covenant. Recognizing the richness of diversity, the beauty and wonder of shared worship, and the transforming power of love and service, we gather as a sacred, intentional community to freely seek knowledge and truth, celebrate the fullness of life, and by our actions to increase goodness and justice.
Good morning. Our opening words are by Mark Nepo. If all I have is now, where will I look for joy? Without hope for the future, without hope for things that will change, with no hope of finding what's been lost, and no hope of restoring the past, with only the risk to crack open all that is hardened about me, what will I do with what I have? Our task in living is how, not why. We gather together to explore the how.
Please stand if willing and able. Please be seated.
Our words for meditation are from a poem by a teacher in Detroit who had a student who was killed by a stray bullet. You whom I could not save, listen to me. Can we agree Kevlar backpacks shouldn't be needed for our children walking to school? Those same children also shouldn't require a suit of armor when standing on their front lawns or snipers to watch their backs as they eat at McDonald's. They shouldn't have to stop to consider the speed of a bullet or how it might reshape their bodies. But one winter, back in Detroit, I had one student who opened a door and died. It was the front door to his house, but it could have been any door, and the bullet could have written any name. The shooter was 13 years old and was aiming at someone else. But a bullet doesn't care about aim. It doesn't distinguish between the innocent and the guilty. And how was the bullet supposed to know that this child would open the door at the exact wrong moment because his friend was outside screaming for help? Did I say I had one student who opened a door and died? That's wrong. There were many. The classroom of grief had far more seats than the classroom for math, though every student in the classroom for math could count the names of the dead. A kid opens a door. The bullet couldn't possibly know, nor could the gun, because guns don't kill people. They don't have minds to decide such things. They don't choose or have a conscience. And when a man doesn't have a conscience, we call him a psychopath. This is how we know what type of assault rifle a man can be, and how we discover the hell that thrums inside each one of them. Today, there's another shooting with dead kids everywhere. It was another school, a store, a movie theater, parking lot, or someone's own porch. The world is full of doors, and you, whom I cannot save, you may open a door and enter a grocery store, a classroom, a hospital, or a eulogy. And if the latter, you will be mourned, then buried in rhetoric. There will be monuments of legislation, little flowers made from red tape. What should we do, we ask again? The earth will close like a door above you. What should we do? And that click you hear, that's just our voices, the deadbolt of discourse sliding into place. Words do sometimes have great power to change things, and so does the silence. Let us sit together for 90 wonderful seconds of silence. lighting candles of joys and concerns, either at the front or the back, and you can write in the book at the back too.
morning. Good morning. Our reading this morning comes from excerpts from the Washington Post, NPR, and the Chicago Tribune. We were up north relaxing for a couple of days, and I had been on the beach all day. And that evening I went to bed early to read. And there was a gentle knock on the door, and my 20-year-old peeked his head in to ask me if I was okay. And I thought that was strange because I couldn't think of a reason that I wouldn't be okay. But Rowan said, "You must not have heard the news." And indeed I had not. It was the day of the Uvalde school shooting. He said that he remembered the day that Sandy Hook happened, and I had come home distraught and sobbing. Well, he was just 11 years old then. But he recalled that day and decided that he should make sure that I was okay this time, when such little kids had been killed. And to my surprise, excuse me, I was okay. I didn't cry. We just started talking about other things. And I wondered to myself, had I lost my compassion? How much had I changed in 10 years? Most psychologists would say, no, you haven't lost your compassion. A lot of us are suffering what's called massacre or compassion fatigue. With the number of mass shootings that have occurred, many of us have gone numb. The brain's capacity to respond diminishes when it becomes so overstimulated. We have barely been able to grasp one disaster when another has stolen the headlines. Do you even remember Thousand Oaks, California? That happened only 11 days after the massacre at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. I didn't remember. What about First Baptist in Texas, where 26 were dead? Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal in Charleston, the Sikh Temple in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Do you remember Las Vegas, Orlando, Virginia Tech, Parkland, Columbine, Seattle, Aurora, Santa Fe? I could go on. 4 months after Sandy Hook, we all thought the bill to expand background checks for most gun sales would pass. Then Vice President Biden and Gabrielle Giffords, a former lawmaker who had been shot, were stunned with all the rest of us when it was defeated. Biden that day assured Giffords, "This is actually going to help you build a movement." Yet gun control measures have failed repeatedly since then. But gun violence is going strong. Since Sandy Hook, there have been 3,500 mass shootings, according to the Gun Violence Archive, a nonprofit organization that tracks these things. Could it be our representatives are blind to the urgency because they too have been desensitized in the face of so many tragedies? University of Oregon psychologist Paul Slovic says that this psychic numbing happens when the emotional response to a tragedy doesn't increase when the number of victims does. As more and more victims are added, our attention and emotions are diffused and our responses diminish. Experts say the only solution is to value lives more than the special interests. The only alternative is more massacres.
When I wake up in the morning, love, and the sunlight hurts my eyes, something without warning, love, that's heavy on my mind. Then I look at you, and the world's alright with me. Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day. It's a lovely day, it's a lovely day, a lovely day, it's a lovely day. When the day that lies ahead of me seems impossible to face, just then one look at you, my love, you always seem to know the way. 'Cause then I look at you, and our world's alright with me. Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day. Lovely day, it's a lovely day, it's a lovely day, it's a lovely day, lovely day, lovely day. It's a lovely day, it's a lovely day, it's a lovely day, it's a lovely day.
One day, a friend of former President John Quincy Adams, who was then 80 years old, saw him shuffling down a Boston street. And the friend stopped Adams and asked, "And how is John Quincy Adams today?" And Adams replied, "Thank you. John Quincy Adams is well, sir, quite well. I thank you. But the house in which he lives at present is becoming dilapidated. It is tottering upon its foundations. Time and the seasons have nearly destroyed it. Its roof is well worn out. Its walls are much shattered, and it trembles with every wind. The old tenement is becoming almost uninhabitable, and I think Adams will have to move out quite soon. But he himself is quite well, sir, quite well." Adams had a sense of humor about life, and despite his infirmities, he still found joy in it. I'd like to introduce you to another person who had a positive outlook, even as his body was failing him. He was a young man named Justin Hardy. In high school, Justin was an excellent student, popular with students and teachers. He volunteered for everything. He was the protector of kids who got picked on. He would have made any parent proud. As Rookie of the Year at Washington University in St. Louis, he was what they call a machine. Hardy was one of the best college basketball players in the country in 2018. His coach believed he was a future All-American. But the season was cut short Hardy's sophomore year because guess what? COVID. And then his junior year was canceled too because of COVID. But Hardy continued to work out and study. He was doing a double major, fully expecting that he was going to be on the court the minute he was allowed to, and he's going to be in better shape than when he left it. But last April, he woke up with an awful pain in his stomach. And during emergency surgery for a perforated ulcer, doctors discovered stage 4 stomach cancer. Hardy was given 12 to 18 months to live. This is how Hardy responded. I'm being put into this game that I, in theory, have zero chance of winning. He says the first thing that he did when he got home was write a letter to himself. It said, Justin, I know you've heard some bad news today. It's the worst day of your life. Your mind is going to shift to a place you didn't know you were capable of. You will be the most mentally tough person by going through this. There will be plenty more great days to come. Do not let any negativity drag you down. This is all mind over matter. With radiation and chemotherapy, Hardy went from 215 to 165 pounds. His coach, who had always said the team was our best version of ourselves when he's with us, never thought that he would see Hardy play basketball again. Hardy thought otherwise. Within just 5 months of his diagnosis, Hardy was at practice with the team. A month after that, he was in the starting lineup again. Last Christmas, he was dunking balls like he used to. That's amazing, isn't it? We often miss stories like this. Had anybody heard of him before? Well, we miss it because, as they say in journalism, if it bleeds, it leads. And there's been plenty of that lately. The television news and true crime dramas want you to see and hear every gory detail. Advertisers want you to see those poor little puppies and kittens with Sarah McLachlan singing in the background. I don't even know what that ad is for because my son and I can't get to the remote fast enough to turn it off. We just can't bear to watch it. But the good news is that the bad news is no longer the big draw it used to be. In her book, Broadcasting Happiness, former journalist turned researcher Michelle Gielan says that we become so overwhelmed by negativity that it can be harmful to us. So she admits that, yes, we're primed to be alert to danger, but we're also primed to respond to uplifting stories. Our response to positive stories actually increases our happiness, makes us healthier, and actually can make us more successful in business, she says. I was also really surprised to hear that we're more likely to share positive stories on social media than negative ones. We pass it on because we have confidence that we can make a difference in the world. The phenomena of people feeling positively inspired and less helpless and more proactive even has a name. by researchers. It's called the elevation effect. We might say then that positive attitudes and emotions are contagious. Taking this research to heart, did you know that the Huffington Post has made a conscious decision to focus on more positive content? They and a few other media outlets understand the crucial role journalists have in communicating positive stories. Like that wave that they do at sporting events, something they report can shape the emotions and even the actions of the readers exponentially. Of course, unfortunately, news outlets that are more negative in nature understand this too, and are out to shape the opinions of their constituents as well. Think for a moment how you feel after you read a negative story, especially, let's consider, about recent shootings. You're likely to be a little bit more grouchy and feel a little hopeless. Because unlike a hurricane or a tornado, we can't go and help rebuild anything. There's nothing to physically fix. We are left feeling like we should be doing something, but we don't know what. And then we also feel like perhaps we are not physically safe either, or our families. Now, we can never totally avoid those feelings. Not until tragedies like Buffalo and Uvalde and Tulsa end. And unfortunately, I don't see that happening soon. But on the short list of dealing with such things is all the stuff that you already know. Changing laws, avoiding hearing the same negative news over and over again. But there's a few other ones. First, we can make an effort to try to react to these things in a way that doesn't make us feel worse. And consider that if you feel better about things, the people around you are going to feel better about things. For instance, if you participate in a peace meditation, peace flows into your body, but it also flows outward and into the universe. And they say that makes everyone more peaceful. The same thing happens with positive thoughts. The more positive thoughts that you have inside also flow outside, and that means more people will think positive thoughts. That's what they say. Now, I assure you, I wasn't consciously thinking about how my mood would affect those around me when I heard about Uvalde from my son. The first thing I think I thought about was, I'm the next person preaching, and I'm going to have to address it. And perhaps out of desperation or the compassion fatigue that you heard about earlier, I just knew I couldn't stand up here and repeat the things that we always say after these things. What came to my mind was the last line of the Wendell Berry poem, The Peace of Wild Things. It reads, "For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free." And that phrase kept going around and around in my head. Rest in the grace of the world and am free. Now, those of you that know me know I'm not a very mystical, magical person. But I kept thinking there's got to be a reason that keeps going through my mind. So what I concluded was that somehow this is telling me that I need to focus on beauty rather than ugliness in this situation. I need to focus on good stories rather than ugly ones and bad ones. Instead of the puzzles that say, what's wrong with this picture, that we used to do when we were kids, I need to ask, what's right? What's right with this world? Although we may feel powerless at the moment because the chances of the laws changing are slim to none, think of all the things we've won. Women and African Americans never thought they'd own property or be able to vote. Currently, abortion is legal, and if it becomes illegal, we're going to fight it again. Although the environment's not doing great, we've done a lot to save it, and we're still working on it. A black man was president. Many of us never thought that we would see marriage equality. So maybe in our lifetime, maybe not, meaningful and effective gun control will happen. I believe it will happen. We might, all of us sitting here might see it, but it's going to happen. So while we wait, besides finding stories like Justin Hardy's that lift us up, I also wondered, could he have just as easily been a school shooter? What was different about him or his parents or how he grew up? And I remembered something the Buddhist peace activist Thich Nhat Hanh said. An enemy is one whose story has not yet been heard. I wonder if maybe we aren't asking enough kids to tell us their stories. Or maybe they want to tell us and we're not listening. So I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe it's possible to prevent some of this. If kids want to talk, we need to listen. Maybe that's part of the answer. But I also want to say we don't have to wait around to give out those warm fuzzies from kids that we encounter. It just so happens that in Hardy's hometown of St. Louis, the city did something kind of unprecedented. And you may have heard about this. It's a while ago. But during the 2016 election, they were fed up with negative lawn signs. I mean, we all were in 2016, you remember? Well, they must have known that attitudes are contagious, because with the help from the U.S. Department of Arts and Culture, the Lawn Care campaign was born. And people in the city were invited to go to their city parks and screen print their own yard signs. But rather than political, the signs promoted qualities that were integral to healthy communities. Things around empathy and equity and belonging. So instead of a sign that said, "Everyone sucks 2016, which I saw that sign, I don't know if you guys did, they would do something like, "Don't give up 2016, right? I thought, that is such a great idea. Wouldn't you smile and feel good if you saw like a creative and positive slogan on some random lawn? I mean, I think that would kind of make my day. And it would touch a lot of people. It might even create a movement. Who knows? So, Jerry, can we put that on our project list? Okay. I mean, for, the future, but I just thought, what a great idea. Okay. So, are you writing it down? Oh, okay, yeah. So, let's say we do everything right and things still go tragically wrong. Well, once again, Wendell Berry saves me. I'd like to share with you the entire poem. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Now, is that an oversimplification of the state of the world, our country? Maybe, but it helps me cope a little. Because despair can easily creep in and overwhelm us when we have these tragedies over and over again. So Berry suggests we take on the attitude of animals who don't bother worrying about the past or the future. They live in the present, peaceful, beautiful world. Well, I believe that's how Justin Hardy dealt with his health crisis. He didn't pretend that he didn't have cancer, but he loved every minute that he was alive. And earlier this year, that young man miraculously tied his career high of 28 points in a single game. His entire family was cheering him on from the stands. He was playing like he was the best player in the country again. Hardy commented that there was no piece of me that was going to be half-assed at this. This is me living my life regardless of the circumstances. If this isn't beating it, he said, I don't know what is. Can you imagine being that positive? So whatever you want to call what he did, determination, luck, God, or, we might put it direct experience of transcending mystery and wonder. Whatever it was working for Hardy for a while. He kept playing and he kept surviving. To me, it was like he was given this unexpected blessing from the universe, a gift of sacred time to play his heart out. Maybe that was Hardy's grace that Berry talks about in that poem. He let go and simply enjoyed being alive. Or maybe you like the more cosmic and scientific description of grace from theologian and naturalist Loyal Rue. He wrote that the epic of evolution counts out for us a pageant of blessings that stupefies the imagination. He says, consider the astonishing improbability of a universe suitable for human habitation. The chaotic events of the primordial flaring forth left our universe with a slight excess of particles over antiparticles. But the important point is, if this delicate imbalance had varied by a factor as small as 1 part in a billion, then we would not be here. That, he says, is grace. But if you're not into the word grace, theologian Sam Keen says, call it trustful agnosticism. He believes it is as having a trustful attitude toward life, even though you know it lets you down at times. Personally, my own take on the universe is that it will provide. Maybe not what I want, but usually what I need. Or for the purpose of today's sermon, there are a lot of things right with this world. And I don't know why, but there are. And I'm not trying to sound Pollyannish, and maybe some of you think I am, but I know there's a bunch of crap in this world, and a lot of crappy things happen, I know. But if I concentrate on that, why would you want me up here? If you feel inspired or happier when you walk out of here, you're going to spread it around. Get it? Good. And look, if Justin Hardy could find enough right in this world to fight that hard and stick around, certainly we can. Certainly we can. But by this past February, he could no longer get through a game. The cancer spread. He tried an experimental treatment that ended him up in the hospital because the side effects were so severe, so he stopped him. That is not how he wanted to live, he said. He missed 3 games. And then in late February, he managed to go into a game with 37 seconds left, and he made what was going to be his final basket, while 500 fans gave him a standing ovation. Now, his team went on to play 2 rounds in the Division III NCAA tournament, and Hardy was there to watch every play. Hardy died last Sunday, a week ago today. That same day, 4 people were killed by gun violence, and 35 more were injured by guns in this country. Most of the headlines the day Hardy died were about Texas, Buffalo, and the Ukraine. Very few people noticed that an incredible young man lost his 13-month battle with cancer. But this is what his teammates posted publicly. We have the awesome responsibility to carry forward his legacy of relentless positivity. Fortunately, some of us came across Justin's story buried deep among all of the bad news. Some of us did. And it was positively inspiring. So today I thought we might inspire each other by remembering what is good in this world far outweighs the bad. There are going to be two poster boards in the narthex during coffee hour. I ask that you take a moment at coffee hour to write a word, a phrase, a sentence, answering the question, what is right with this world? And you can write more than once if you think of more than one thing. And then I'll be sharing what we all wrote next week. But I guarantee it's going to make your day better if you think about at least one thing that's right with this world. So please do that for me. But for now, perhaps you'll share with me the awesome responsibility to carry forth relentless positivity. If not for yourself, for Justin Hardy. Amen.
Gonna have a good day, and all my homies gonna ride today, and all my mamas look fine today, and all we wanna do is get by today. Gonna have a good day, ain't nobody gotta cry today, 'cause ain't nobody gonna die today. Save that drama for another day, yeah. Gonna have a good day, all my homies gonna ride today, and all my mamas look fine today, and all we wanna do is get by today, yeah.
Thank you for the many ways you support UUCF, allowing us to share our UU values with this community and beyond. Your generous offerings make life-affirming and justice-centered message possible. We invite you to join us as we take a collection by placing your offerings in the back in a basket or online as a gift to UUFlint.org. We've got the donate button. We take all sorts of apps. If you want to donate money, we'll take it. So thank you very much.
Our closing words are also by Thich Nhat Hanh. Our true home is in the present moment. To live in the present moment is a miracle. The miracle is not to walk on water. The miracle is to walk on the green earth in the present moment and to appreciate the peace and beauty that are available right now.
And let us extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Feel free to join in. My life flows on in endless song of progress lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn, and hails a new creation. Through all the time and endless strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars, I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close, songs in the night it giveth. Though storm can shake my utmost calm, but to the rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?